Hi guys, this is gsm.com and I'm here with the Motorola One Vision for a full review. I know this phone is up and coming right now. It's going to be launched in India on June 20 and we have it here for a review, and we've actually handled it way long ago, about a month ago in mid-May. But now it's time to get the proper idea about the device after some long periods of, benchmarking, gaming, music listening and more. Okay, so we're dealing here with an affordable mid-ranger, about $300 to $350. That's the price tag. It has a selfie camera cut in the screen, and it has the unusual 21:9 format that Sony inaugurated earlier this year via the Xperias. It's a mid-range phone. It has a processor which is very similar to the one you found on the Samsung Galaxy A50, and it also brings a dual back camera, plus Android One, which will keep the software updated for 2 years and the security features for 3 years. Anyways, let's start the review, and I'm going to start off with the design. So what we have here is the beautiful sapphire color. There's also one called bronze, and this sapphire is basically blue, darker in the middle and lighter on the sides. This is glass. It's written on the website, and it actually feels like glass, and this is glass again, and between them we have a metal frame, even though it could be covered by a bit of plastic if you ask me. It's a comfy phone. Don't get fooled by the whole elongated 21:9 aspect thing. It's actually comfier than you would expect. You can see me properly gripping it, and every time I put my finger here and I can reach my other fingers, it means it's a narrow phone. That means extra comfort, and you will not drop it or have it slip from your hand. I know that it's long, and it means it's harder to reach all the areas of the screen with a single hand, but you can do it in the end. So comfy, good grip, and the back side doesn't draw many fingerprints or grease, but in case that happens, you have a bundle case, which you saw in the unboxing. If you want measurements, it's 8.7 millimeters in thickness and 180 grams in weight. I know we have huge bezels by 2019 standards, I know that, and I also know that the front camera has huge bezels around it as well. I prefer the Galaxy S10e solution, the Honor View 20, but hey, that's what we got here. And the buttons are pretty comfy, the build is pretty solid, so overall it passes our test design wise. Now on the screen front, things get interesting. We have an ultra wide cinema vision display here, a 6.3 incher 21:9 aspect IPS LCD with a resolution of 2520 over 1080 pixels and Gorilla Glass protection. It's got big bezels, it's got a big chin and some personality, and let's play a video on this screen. Okay, so be advised that some of the players out there will not be able to feel the entirety of the screen, and here you can see we have a black band which is asymmetrical to this one here. Anyways, the actual viewing experience is satisfying. I would say that we get pretty solid brightness, decent contrast in the sun, vivid colors and wide view angles, so nothing to object about. It's no AMOLED, but for an IPS LCD it does the job. Okay, so it's wasting space in that area, but if you're going on YouTube, you'll see that the screen gets filled up. So let's actually go to gsmdome.com. Here we go, and pick this thingy here. Skip the McDonald's ad, if possible. It's actually one of 2 ads. Okay. Okay, so on YouTube, you can fill the screen. So that's the actual viewing experience you should get. I will be happy if that also happens on Netflix. So there's that. Anyways, you get the idea. Okay, brightness, colors, vivid, okay, brightness, okay, contrast, vivid colors, wide angles, and now it's time to go to the test we usually do. You know, the ones that involve a microscope, lux meter, and so forth. Okay, so this is the pixel arrangement under the microscope. It's called RGB stripes, pretty typical for an IPS. And then we have the lux meter test, which is pretty solid, I would say. We got as high as 438 lux units, which is pretty bright, and it beats the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. It beats the AllView Soul X5 Pro and the Nokia 8.1. Scores below the Samsung Galaxy A50 and below the Asus Zenfone Max Pro M2, as well as the Motorola Moto Z3 Play, just in case you're wondering. And if you want to tweak the experience further, obviously there are going to be some special settings for this display. So you go here, you got your brightness level, you got your night light, you got your adaptive brightness, of course, wallpaper, advanced, and colors. You can set colors to be natural, boosted or saturated. And I'll say it again, I find the bezels here to be too big, but other than that, I'm pretty happy with the general calibration, brightness and contrast. Now, if you want to talk about the other hardware, the CPU should feel familiar. It's an Exynos 9609. Just so you know, it's a version of the 9610 from the Galaxy A50. So Samsung basically gave Motorola a mid-range CPU, octa-core, 2.2 GHz, accompanied by 4 GB of RAM and 120 GB of storage plus micro SD card slot. Luckily, since Motorola as usual runs a clean Android with no fuss and no bloater and the specs are solid, I didn't encounter any trace of lag no matter what I did. Pictures, music, YouTube, gaming, everything works fine by me, and we also did a bit of gaming in Riptide GP Renegade. And just so you know, yes, it can run PUBG Mobile, yes, it can run Asphalt 9, and just let's see how well they can fit on the screen. Some games will take advantage of the full screen state, others won't, so be prepared for that. It's still an atypical aspect, 21:9, and developers are getting accustomed to this. It's Sony so far and Motorola more recently. Okay, it's time to pull off a stunt, maybe one too many. Nice frame rate, a nice general vibe of the game, pretty good details and all that. And now I guess it's time to talk about the benchmarks. Okay, so performance-wise, you would expect the device to be pretty close to what the Galaxy A50 offered us. After all, they have the same CPU. So let's see what we got here. Once again, not exactly the same CPU, but rather a version of it. Okay, so this result here is Antutu 7 with a pretty good score. It scored above the AllView Sol X6 Extreme, above the Galaxy A50 and above the Galaxy A9 2018. Scores below the Nokia 8.1 and the Huawei Honor 10, just so you know. Now we go here, this is Geekbench 4, we take into account the multi-core subtest, surpasses the Huawei P30 Lite, and also surpasses Motorola Moto Z3 Play, while staying below the Asus Zenfone Max Pro M2, the Galaxy A50 and the Huawei Mate 20 Lite. So a bit of a mixed bag so far, but in general in the area you are expecting for a mid-range phone. We also have GPU related benchmarks useful for, well, gamers. This one beats the Galaxy A50, the 3D Mark Slingshot 3.1, this one here, beats Galaxy A50, Xiaomi Mi A2 and the AllView Sol X6 Extreme, and stays below the Nokia 8.1 and Galaxy A9 2018. So basically, it's able to beat the Kirin 710 Huawei phones, also the Snapdragon 660 phones out there, and it's very close to the Galaxy A50, performing pretty much the same. It's no match for a Snapdragon 710, let's make that clear. Now, in case you're wondering if there's any problem with the temperature, we got you covered. We did a test. So 37.2 degrees Celsius, that's how high we reached in the game Riptide GP Renegade, which means there's no overheating. And we also did a GFX bench test, one of the most intensive benchmarks. It scored 36.6 degrees Celsius, so no problem with overheating. And one of the coolest phones out there, this is recorded with the FLIR thermal scanner on the rugged phone Cat S61. As you can see, not any major heat points, only here some of them, but in general good heat dissipation and no overly heated areas. Okay, that's about it on the temperature front. And on the performance front, let's talk battery. So this beautiful phone that we got here has a 3500 mAh battery with a 15-watt turbo power charging. Now, in case you're wondering, we did a video test, we played it again and again and again till the battery ran out, and the result should be as follows. So on the video playback front, we're at 11 hours and 34 minutes, which is solid in my book and probably in anyone's book if you're talking about a mid-range phone. Now with this value here, we beat phones like the OnePlus 6, LG G7, Nokia 9 PureView, at the same time scoring below the Huawei Honor 8X, Motorola Moto Z3 Play and the Honor View 20. Now this is the video playback thingy. We also did a continuous usage thing thanks to the PC Mark application, and we got a score here, pretty impressive, 9 hours 41 minutes. I would say rather okay than impressive. Nowadays you see many phones able to go crazy with the duration of the continuous usage. Anyway, it's a good result, 9 hours and 41 minutes. It's superior to the Nokia 8.1, which is no small feat. It beats the Huawei P30 Lite and also the Google Pixel 3 XL. Still, it's no match to the Galaxy S10e, the Xperia XA2 and the Motorola Moto Z3 Play, and it also gets beaten by quite a bit by the Samsung Galaxy A50, which was crazy good in the battery department. You think that after Motorola's last record, which we still have here for the Motorola Moto G7 Plus, and it's amazing fast charge. Well, this one is not that amazing fast charge. It's got 2 hours and 2 minutes. I remember that the Moto G7 Plus went below 1 hour. Anyways, 2 hours and 2 minutes, and after 1 hour of charging, you're at about 73% with this baby here. And in case you want to squeeze more juice out of it, there is an option. You go to the battery and you got your options like adaptive battery, battery saving, and you can see which apps are being basically vampires with your energy. So pretty good battery overall. And now we go to the acoustics. Motorola for the longest while has used the earpiece to output music. That's no longer the case. Singular speaker at the bottom will not be covered in landscape while you're watching those cool Netflix shows, and the equalizer is basically focused on the Dolby experience, so you can actually alternate between things. You can go here to the play music, and it's not your average equalizer. Let's see, you go here, you got Dolby audio. You can choose between smart audio, music and movie. Those are the options. Now let's take the music for a spin, see what happens, play some tunes, and let's go. By the way, don't know if you noticed, we have FM radio, and we also have a bunch of bundle headphones which aren't half bad. They're actually sporting a premium design. You saw them in the unboxing, and they're very comfy and quite loud. Now let's actually listen to some tunes. Here we go. Okay, conclusions about that. Very happy with the experience, honestly above my expectations. Loud, clear, crisp, all the notes were hit perfectly. Solid bass, nice calibration, and the body doesn't vibrate, so thumbs up for that. Once again, premium headphones are bundled, and I will not leave you hanging because we have some tests. We have a special decibel meter tool, and we use it to measure the sound, the strength of the sound. So 89.4 decibels achieved with a typical acoustic sample that we always use at the front and the back of the phone. If you compare this, it's superior to the Asus Zenfone 6, which we tested recently, and superior to the Samsung Galaxy A50. It scores below the Asus Zenfone 5 and the Motorola Moto G7 Plus. Now this is done for a sample. If you want to do gaming and multimedia, we achieved 99.8 decibels in the game Riptide you saw before. Another solid result, superior to the Zenfone 6, Moto G7 Plus and Google Pixel 3 XL, but inferior to the Zenfone 5Z and Nokia 6.1. So you get the gist of it. It acts like a typical mid-ranger with a pretty solid singular speaker. Stereo wouldn't have hurt, but we're going to make do. Anyways, time to talk about the camera. So let's go to the back side. Things are pretty interesting here. As you can see, we have big lenses and the promise of 48 megapixels is written here. We have a dual LED, dual tone flash, and as I said before, the main camera is a 48 megapixel shooter, f1.7 aperture that outputs 12 megapixel shots with larger pixels and more brightness info. It has optical image stabilization, quad pixel technology, and a Samsung sensor from what I know. It does 4K video, and it's accompanied by a 5 megapixel depth sensor to keep it all in check and take those beautiful bokehs. You cannot output 48 megapixel shots, only 12 megapixel ones, which have bigger pixels. And at the front here in this cutout, there is a 25 megapixel camera, once again with a quad pixel setup, but this one can actually output 25 megapixel shots. Full HD video capture here, 4K at the back, and we also have a portrait option, a cutout option, got spot color, and even a crazy night mode, which surprised us, and you'll see that later on. But there's panorama, there's cinematograph, and even raw capture, but we're going to get rid of all of that and cover the gallery right about now. So here we go, it's picture time. I've taken quite a few pictures during a very sunny day in May, and as you can see, the sky is a bit weird in the selfies. It's an unrealistic colors, but the selfies are pretty okay. I'm talking about the texture of the face, of the eyes, the color calibration, and in general the clarity was satisfying in those selfie shots. We're using a high resolution selfie camera, and you can actually see that in the details. Even though these aren't the 25 megapixel shots we've taken, those are separate and they're stunning detail wise. So in general, I'm happy with the selfies. They're better than the Samsung Galaxy A50, and they're easily able to fight those taken with the Huawei P30 Lite. Okay, so these are the main camera shots. Not bad clarity, and also not bad colors. Let's see what else. Every once in a while the sky had a weird hue, a bit of overexposure here and there in areas of vegetation and sky, but most of the colors were okay in my book, particularly the reds. And if you feel the sky is messed up, you can always activate HDR and bring things to normal. My first attempts at a bokeh or portrait shot were not very successful, had some trouble with the proper subject to focus on. And then we move further to more shots. Once again, the reds are okay calibrated. More shots here. And even more selfies, trying to convince myself this is the proper selfie camera, and it's actually not bad. And one thing to notice here is that we took a bunch of bokeh selfie shots, and they're actually quite solid. You can see me highlighted from the background. Everything is properly cropped up, and everything is properly blurred behind me, so the bokeh shot gets a thumbs up from me. We move further. There are some cool effects here, the studio effects. There's extra light here, there's the black background behind me, even though with a slip up here of purple, and this one also, plus this one where I'm all colors and the background is black and white, and that's pretty nice. Then we proceed. We have several excellent close-ups. That's something to remember here. The phone really does good close-ups, but which phone doesn't nowadays? I feel that I've actually taken maybe too many selfies. That's probably on account of the level of detail, which is pretty impressive. Now, speaking of details, throughout these shots, if you want to get a glimpse of what's happening here, just take one, zoom in, and you'll be happy with the level of details that's being captured. The idea is the following. These aren't 48 megapixel shots, these are 12 megapixel shots, but the pixels are combined, so that's why I keep praising those details. This is actually a very nice example of proper focusing on a small subject and blurring everything behind it. So once again, pretty cool bokeh, even though it takes a few attempts to get it right. And a perfect example of perfect reds and color calibration at its best for a mid-range phone. I feel that there's less overexposure here compared to what I saw on the Huawei P30 Lite or the Samsung Galaxy A50, even though in general the clarity and quality is about the same as on those other models. And here we have a fine example of HDR in action, putting things into perspective with this statue. And also several more attempts at a portrait shot, maybe not the best situation to try it out. Okay, and then we have the zoom. This is the regular shot of a rose. We start zooming in, and as you can see, there's a lot of grain and noise happening here. Not the best results when zooming. Once again, not properly calibrated exposure of the sky, fixed instantly when applying HDR. More captures here. If you're into photos of flowers, close-ups, macros, and bokehs of flowers, you'll be happy with the result. As you can see again, I would put this on par in general in most situations with the Motorola Moto G7 Plus, maybe with a plus on the bokeh side, and even more flower shots. It's the summer after all. Okay, now I promised you something special. Those you saw before were lower resolution selfies. These are high resolution selfies, 25 megapixel selfies, which take longer to shoot, but the amount of detail is all the more impressive. After all, there's a lot of pixels here. Okay, and several more shots. This is one of the situations when we applied HDR and got the grass a bit burned and a bit overexposed. Anyways, things to remember here while you watch these beautiful colors. I would have to say that the quality and clarity are similar to the Samsung Galaxy A50 and Huawei P30 Lite, maybe with less burn and better bokeh. Selfies are definitely better than the Samsung Galaxy A50. It's sad we don't have a wide-angle camera, And the main flaws are the zoom, the lack of a proper zoom, and the every once in a while overexposure. The selfies have got to be the best attribute so far, and maybe, let's say, color calibration, the reds, and also the details are quite nice. These are daytime shots. Let's go to the low light shots where there's a bit of a surprise. Now, most of the pictures are regular shots taken from the device, but every once in a while you'll see one that's hugely bright. Explanation: we have a night mode and we actually used it to very impressive results. Pretty nicely lined up street light halos in size and color and whatever you want. Nice clarity all around, and even a nice texture of this water fountain, which is not something you catch at night all the time. Check this out: regular shot again, and then you can light things up with a night mode. It takes a bit to take the picture, but honestly speaking, I have never seen such a quality night mode on a mid-range phone. You cannot tell there's a table here at the restaurant, but so no trace of anything here, and voila, with the night mode you see everything. I would say this is just as good as the night mode on the OnePlus phones, not even kidding, and for a mid-range phone that's high praise. Of course, it's no Huawei P30 Pro, and it's no Google Pixel 3 XL and the Nightscape, but still, night sight, but still pretty impressive. Regular shot, night shot, it turns night into day, and that's the biggest achievement of the phone in the optical department. It blows all other mid-range phones out of the water, and to be honest, even some flagships. So with the night mode alone, it wins the fight against the Samsung Galaxy A50 and Huawei P30 Lite. Now, if you want to talk video, there is an app for that. I'm going to rely on MX Player to keep things in check. So I have 10 videos. They're shot in MP4, Full HD, 30 or 60 frames per second, and also 4K. Yes, we have 4K. Let's start with this video here. Okay, so there are a lot of things happening here. There's the traffic of the road, there are my headphones, and also the noise that are made by people. As you can see, very overexposed, especially in the sky department and the vegetation. Pretty decent clarity. And this is MP4, Full HD, 20 megapixel bitrate, 30 frames per second, and the zoom is a bit underwhelming. The microphone was solid throughout the captures. So let's see what else. And if I'm not mistaken, this is one of those 4K videos with excellent color calibration, but a slight bit of refocusing and a slight bit of shakiness. You can tell the camera is struggling to properly adjust the image, and sometimes this feels like a moved image. Lack of stabilization. Good colors, once again, but the refocus is a bummer. Okay, so we also took some selfie videos, not this one. This one here, this is a selfie video. I would say it's okay, tops. I've seen Motorola phones do better. I remember the Motorola Moto G6 Plus and the G7 Plus were actually better than this. So if you want to become a vlogger, you may need those Motorolas, not this one. The capture is okay, but I've seen better. And check this out. This is the very first phone I've ever seen to feature slow motion selfie videos. It's not much of a feature, but hey, it's there. It's probably got the use for something if you really want it, like flapping your hand in front of the camera like this. So yes, you can do slow motion videos with the front camera. How cool is that? Even more videos. This is a 60 frames per second Full HD video, very overexposed and not impressive, to be honest. Okay, and we tested the stabilization by walking around, and I was a bit underwhelmed. I remember the last Motorola G phones, they were actually quite good in the stabilization area. Not this one, not this Motorola One Vision. There's flicker, there's refocus, there's blur and vibration. You cannot see it on the small screen, but believe me, if you watch this on a PC, you'll tell in an instant that things aren't perfect. And this is an area where actually the Galaxy A50 does much better. I would say it's actually between the Huawei P30 Lite and the Galaxy A50, only slightly above the Huawei P30 Lite and below the Galaxy A50. That's the definition of the video capture here, and I would say that it's below the Motorola Moto G7 Plus, just in case you're wondering. That one is better. So this is the low light video capture, and let's talk about it. As you can probably tell, things are underwhelming. The image is too shaky, the lighting is okay, the colors are okay, the halos are okay sized, but the shakiness, is not okay. There's motion blur, there's a bit of refocus. Every time you try to pan or move around, you will see blurriness and shakiness. It's not able to make it to the top 10 of the mid-range phones, even though oddly enough the zoom was okay. So I would say a mixed bag. I'm not impressed by the video, but I'm totally blown away by the low light photo taking with the night mode. That's something to remember here. And also very good selfies and very detailed. Now let's talk about other things, like going to the web browser to access gsnhome.com, which loads up pretty fast on Chrome, and for input we've got this swipe based stock keyboard. It's time to talk about connectivity now. Things are pretty predictable here. We're getting two microphones, we're getting an audio jack, there's one mic here, there's one mic at the bottom, there's an USB Type-C port, and there are single SIM and dual SIM versions of the phone. The dual SIM one has a hybrid SIM slot, which also works for the micro SD, and the nano SIM slot. There's Bluetooth 5.0, Wi-Fi dual band, GPS, AGPS, GLONASS, and Galileo, and the calls were pretty loud and clear, as we usually see on a Motorola handset. Now we also did something that's called speed test. It's an app, it comes from the company Ookla, and these are some of the results we achieved on 4G and Wi-Fi. This top result here, 205 MB per second, is Wi-Fi download, and 25.5 MB per second, that's the upload. So Wi-Fi is pretty okay. It's not flagship level like 400 MB per second, but still pretty good. 4G is actually close to a flagship level, 167 MB per second download on 4G, and 71.8 MB per second upload on the same 4G. Things are quite fine in the connectivity department. On the software front, not much to say. If you've seen a Motorola phone, you know exactly what to expect. A clean and crisp experience. This is the Android Pie experience with Android One, which means you're going to get Android Q and Android R without a problem, and also 3 years of security updates. It's clean, it's stock, it's bloatware free. If you want to do multitasking, you just swipe up. These are the windows to choose from, and if you want to do split screen, you can press here and you got your split screen desire. Okay, that's it, and I'm using this pill-shaped form because I actually like it a lot. I could have chosen the 3 standard buttons at the bottom. Well, nope. I like the pill-shaped idea. So if you want to go back, you just pull this. If you want to go home, you press on it. And if you alternate between apps, you just swipe on it. And if you want to multitask, you swipe up. And that's about it in a nutshell. Very intuitive. Other than that, keep the home screen pressed and you'll trigger the home settings, widgets, and wallpapers. These are the home settings, notifications, at a glance, suggestions, and so forth. And the widgets are all stock. The kind of things you'll see on a Pixel phone, on a Nokia phone, or maybe on an Asus phone, since they also have Android One devices. Swipe down and you'll be treated to the notifications and also the quick settings. Pretty standard affair. Then we go to the actual settings. We have connectivity, we have apps, battery, display, sound, storage, and security. Here you can either use face unlock or the fingerprint scanner at the back side, which is, I would say, pretty precise. You tap it once and you unlock the device, but not very fast. I've seen faster even in the world of mid-rangers. I remember the Zenfone 5 was faster, for example. And other things we're mentioning here, we have the digital well-being, to try and get rid of the Facebook and YouTube addiction, and we also have the Moto department with those special Motorola features, Moto Actions, 3-finger screenshot, the 1-button navigation I'm using right now, fast flashlight and quick capture, plus Moto display, peak display, attentive display, and so forth. These are the things we're dealing with, and there's also sort of always on display or glance feature, however you want to call it. You can see the screen lighting up a bit and showing useful stuff if it's moved or you approach your head to it. Other than that, I would say there's no bloatware. I counted the apps. There's 31 of them, everything stock, stuff like files, photos, there's Play Music, there's Chrome, there's obviously Duo, there's Keep Notes, Lens, Maps, YouTube, and Slides. That's about it. So I guess it's time for the verdict. And I want to do a big shout out to our fans in India. I know this phone is launching in your area on June 20. I hope this review helps you decide if you're going to buy this one, or maybe a Samsung Galaxy M, or maybe a Samsung Galaxy A. The shout out is now done, and let us get back to the pros and cons. On the pro side, it's a cute blue phone. It's better looking than the Samsung Galaxy A50 and the Huawei P30 Lite. Well, Maybe not the P30 Lite, which is beautiful, but this one feels like it has its own personality. So cute, solid build, a pretty okay display, definitely brighter than the Huawei competition, a pretty nice performance, solid in games. You can play PUBG on it and you can play Asphalt 9 on it for sure. Solid battery all around, okay acoustics, and on the camera front I would say pretty decent bokehs, very nice close-ups, good hues of red, detailed selfies, great, fantastic night mode low light shots, fast connectivity, clean Android, and the format 21:9 has been growing on me thanks to this phone, because I didn't get to test the Xperia 21:9 phone. So actually Motorola introduced me to the 21:9 thing. On the cons side, one hand usage maybe a bit cramped because of the length of the phone. I would also have to say that the bezels are big for the phone and also big for its cutout. It's kind of big, this one here, for the selfie cutout. The charging is a bit on the long side compared to what Motorola has been offering us on the Moto G7 models. There is no stereo speakers, there is no IP68 protection, there's overexposure in pictures. Video capture was a bit underwhelming, especially in the stabilization department, and it takes a long time to take those 25 megapixel selfies. In the end, we're left with a pretty phone, good looking, well built, innovative format, able to take detailed selfies, offering a pretty good battery and pretty good acoustics. So it's basically a multimedia phone that looks nice. That's what all the big companies are promoting for the youngsters. Good looking phones that can do nice multimedia. I would have to place it between the Huawei P30 Lite and the Samsung Galaxy A50. I would buy it versus the Huawei P30 Lite, not very sure, versus the Galaxy A50. That one is better in the battery department and the video capture department. This one is better in build, looks, and selfies. So take that into account. Maybe also the fact that the Galaxy A50 has a wide angle camera. There's actually 3 of them. On the other hand, this has got a clean and stock Android and should receive updates faster. So the choice is yours. I would definitely buy this one instead of the Huawei P30 Lite, but compared to the Galaxy M's and the Galaxy A's, the fight is a bit tougher. And also, there's the Motorola Moto G7 choice. Tough fight. This one's attribute is basically the format and the looks and maybe the very, very detailed selfies. This has been it from gsnhome.com. This has been the review of the Motorola One Vision. Bye bye.